Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Today we are having a webinar on email marketing tips, best practices, and I just wanted to give everybody an overview of email marketing. You know, I talked to a lot of different people, and you know, there's varying degrees of the understanding of internet marketing, some of the metrics, how to go about it. So that's primarily what this webinar is going to be on today. So let's just go ahead and get started here. First, I wanted to give a little bit of knowledge about RedStream, who we are. You know, we were established in 2005 primarily as a software company. We're currently located in Denver, Colorado. It's a gorgeous day here in Denver, and we currently have 21 employees. What we do, again, we start off as a software company, but in 2005, a lot of people don't know this, but we also were really instrumental in internet services, so website design, marketing, development, print pieces, logo design, you name it. So we're really a one-stop shop for really independent properties across the United States, and that's really our mainstay. We don't work with everybody. We don't work with the largest players in the game, but what we do and who we do it for was really set up by our founders who came from a small bed and breakfast background in Estes Park, Colorado, and that's who we really want to cater to. And we want to give the independent properties the tools and the knowledge so they could operate their businesses successfully and kind of have the resources that some of the big boys in the industry, the chains, get to play with. So who we hire, I mean, we're very passionate about who we hire. We don't hire anybody. Our hiring process really takes a long time. We're really dedicated to our employees, and our employees are really dedicated to the innkeepers and hoteliers. We're really big on education. We love to speak at trade shows and conferences and just educate as many people as we can and provide our knowledge so you guys could do a better job at marketing your properties. A little bit about myself. I'm currently the Director of Digital Services at RedStream. I'm also the founder of the Denver Expression Engine Meetup Group, and Expression Engine is a content management system used to build websites. I got my start by developing websites, and that first website that I developed was in 2004, and since then I've developed hundreds of websites and project managed many more. My specialty is really e-commerce and content management systems. And e-commerce is, you know, traditional product-based retailers, but then also hoteliers. So I really view, you know, what you guys do as being e-commerce, as opposed to selling a physical product. You guys are selling rooms, and it's, you know, it's a different cycle. It's a little bit longer cycle than buying a pair of sneakers or, you know, some other physical products, but nonetheless, it's still e-commerce. And I started marketing websites in 2005, and primarily, again, everything that I was doing is related around e-commerce and lodging properties. And I've been helping hoteliers with their web presence since early 2007. As you can see, I have a beautiful wife and 2 loving children. My son is turning 5. His name is Isaac. He starts kindergarten on Monday, and my daughter is going into 4th grade. So we're very excited and love to be parents to them. Below you'll see my email address and my phone number. Please do not hesitate to contact me after this webinar or down the road in a couple weeks. If you just have a question about marketing in general, websites in general, please reach out to me. You could also connect with me on LinkedIn. Okay, so what we're going to cover today is basically 8 different buckets, if you will. So the first one is I want to talk about why email campaigns. And then from there, I want to go into building your list. We definitely need to talk about CAN-SPAM laws. Some people take them serious, some people don't. But it's something that we need to be aware of so we could do the right thing in terms of the law and what's just really best for your recipients. And then permission. And this is in regards to, did you properly get permission to send that recipient in email? And then we're going to talk about executing your campaign. and then from executing that campaign, measuring your success. And then I want to take a look at a case study from one of our clients who wasn't she wasn't consistent in her email marketing campaigns, but just the success of that campaign with a little bit of effort. And then I want to talk about rezCampaigns, and that's a plug for our platform, and I want to go into that. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and get into it. And why email campaigns? Well, they're really cost effective. Most services, most email campaign software service are based on the size of your list. Oftentimes they're a penny per recipient, so it fluctuates. The cost will fluctuate based on how many recipients you have on your list. But it's a really cost-effective way to stay in front of your guests and stay connected with your guests. In terms of pay-per-click marketing and social media and SEO, all very important things. Email marketing is a supplement to some of those things, but it's very, it doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of cost. It's highly targeted if you have a well-maintained list, and it's the ROI, in my opinion, is off the charts when done well. But you also have control. So you have control of your messaging and who's going to get your message and when they're going to get that message and how they're going to view your message. And that's what I like about email marketing is in today's internet world, it seems like, we don't have a lot of control. We have to play by Google's rules and then some of the other search engines rules for advertising and search engine optimization. But email marketing, yes, there's rules, there's laws around it, but you really you have a lot of control of what you want to convey to your recipients. And you get the results really fast. So you could really put together a campaign and send it out within a matter of a couple hours, and your recipients open it within minutes, and they could take an action within minutes. Now, in hospitality, we're selling rooms. Some people have to plan their research and plan their vacation and then book that room. Some people have higher price points than others. So that lead time to when they actually make that reservation may be a little bit longer than minutes, could be weeks, could be months, but you can get your recipients to take action and start that process immediately, which is nice. Email campaigns today with some of the software that's out there, they're really easy to really get going. A lot of them use an easy WYSIWYG formatting, so what you see is what you get formatting. And once you kind of set up your template and choose your template, we design custom templates for our clients here. But once you kind of set up that template, it's really easy to add your message and set up a campaign and then schedule that to be delivered. So you can deliver a campaign while you're sleeping, and you can schedule that within minutes and just kind of get the whole process going. So it's really nice. Okay, so building your list. We get this question all the time, how can I build my list appropriately? And there's a lot of different channels to do that, and I'm going to talk about some of them today, and I'm sure that other people could be, find a creative way to really build their list. But the most popular for most hoteliers is what's on this list here, and we're going to start off with the website. So on your website, in the sidebar, at the footer, on your website, you can have a box, similar to this one that's on here. This one's a little bit generic, but you could say, get special offers or, sign up for our monthly newsletter, and you could entice them to really give them your name and give them your email address. And then also on a contact form too, if they're going to just send in a general inquiry, there's a little check box that they could check to say, please also send me promotional campaigns or your newsletter. The other way is through your booking engine. So if somebody was to make a booking via your booking engine, then you have a record of that email, and you can add them to your list. So we're going to kind of talk about permissions a little bit later, like what is actually permission and what's not permission. But then your property management system as well too. So let's say they booked via the telephone. While you're entering their information, you can add their their email address to their contact list and ask them if they want to participate in email campaigns. rezStream, the new rezStream cloud-based software, we are going to build a connection to some of the popular email campaign softwares to automate that process. So as soon as they get into that system, there'll be an API or a direct connection to that email campaign software, and they can get triggered. They can get added to a list or get a double opt-in, and we're going to talk about some of the different options to have the recipient opt-in to your email campaigns. But another really good way is a post-stay thank you email. So I think the majority of you probably send this email out, and sometimes you don't necessarily capture their email address or get their permission for sending out future campaigns for repeat stays. But this is a really good way. You know, it's also a great way for reputation management too, to build up some of your reviews in Google Plus or TripAdvisor or whatever have you. But then also include, you know, would you also like to receive future promotional emails? It's a really good way to start building your list. Another way that's been popular in recent years is doing like a Facebook sweepstakes. Now, there could be, you know, just keep in mind there's some caveats to this, that you may be able to grow your list fast this way. However, you will have many unsubscribes later, which is a negative impact on your overall campaign. So, you know, while it's effective for the short term, you know, long term, you know, may not necessarily be conducive, and there's some rules around permissions when you do these type of campaigns to get email subscribers, and we'll talk about those. So organizing your list. To this day, I see a lot of hoteliers just putting everybody on one master list and not segmenting their list, you know, down to, you know, specific segments. And right now, I would highly recommend you to organize your list into different categories and maintain those multiple lists. Why? Because when you want to send out a highly targeted campaign, it's easier to do that up front than it is to kind of backtrack and pull out email addresses and names from this particular list and add them to this list. So as you go along and as you get set up with email campaign software, and as you start to plan that you want to start doing email campaigns either for newsletter purpose to get out general information about your property, or if you want to send out promotional campaigns, start to organize your list. And here's some ideas now. You know, basically, if they're coming off off the website and they have not stayed with you at the property yet, they're really a prospect. And so those should be on a prospect list. And those prospects get a different set of campaigns than what your repeat guests would get. So, you know, if they're a prospect, you want to get them to your property for the first time. If they're a repeat guest, you want to get them back to your property. So it's really important to really understand the two different, why you want to have two different email lists for those segments. And then also, if they are a repeat guest, so they are a guest of yours, do you want to segment them down further? So is this a couple that typically stays with you? Is a family that typically stays with you? Were they staying at your property for a romantic vacation, or is it for an adventure? And then do they, you know, you can even go even further, and if you have suites or you know, certain room types that are really special, and people like to really, those repeat guests like to stay in those room types every time they come to you, you can start to segment them by those room types, and then you could send those particular people a highly targeted campaign or promo around that room. Okay, so the opt-in process. And this is, it's confusing for a lot of people that I talk to, and I just want to take some time to just really kind of clarify what are your options, what is the impacts of going with these different options. And primarily, most people start off with manually importing their subscribers. Why? Because they have their list in 5 different places. You know, currently today, out of our software, you have to export your list, and then you have to import your list. There's no direct connection to the email software campaign or email campaign software. And so you have to, and then some people are just maintaining it on a spreadsheet from from their website, but there's still no connection to the email campaign software. So manual imports of subscribers is a very popular way to add people to your email campaign software. And now it's easy. What are some of the advantages? It's easy to grow your list by exporting them from one program, your reservation software, and then importing them into your email campaign software. Some of the disadvantages, and this has actually gotten some people in trouble and have gotten them banned from using the email campaign software. Oftentimes that list that's being imported is really old. So, I see hoteliers importing, guests from 5, 6 years ago that haven't ever received an email campaign from them before. And so now that list is really old. And really, a good practice is you shouldn't be sending anybody an email that you haven't emailed with in the past 2 years. So if you have people, if you've never done a campaign before, be sure and scrub that list down to make sure that they really stayed with you in the past 2 years. And really, some people are going to say 6 months, and we'll talk about that too a little bit later in the presentation. But oftentimes too, errors are made when entering emails. So if some people will say, they'll enter an email address as kevinguil@rezstream, but forget the .com. And so now that's a bad email. And when you put that into the reservation software, typically most reservation softwares are paid by per recipient. And now you're going to pay to send that recipient is going to get counted towards your bill, even though it's a bad email address, and you'll get a bounce back, and then eventually it will get removed. But that first time you send that campaign, you're going to send a campaign to a bunch of bad email addresses. So there's a couple tools, and one of them is Verify, that if you have never sent a campaign before and you're pulling out email addresses from other softwares, you want to put it into Verify and just kind of scrub your list down and making sure that some of those email addresses are still valid. And again, they have to be within the past 2 years. So, if you do a manual import, basically the link quality is diminished, and your open rates, your delivery rates, your unsubscribe rates, those are all going to be and have a negative impact. But the biggest impact is spam complaints. So, and some people say, go ahead, I don't really care about the spam complaints, people are just going to report me as spam. It's actually a serious thing and can get you banned if there's a pattern and your spam complaints are above a certain level. So, again, your list has to be relevant, it has to be recent, and it should be highly targeted to what you're going to send. So that's kind of the manual importing of subscribers. The other popular one is an automated single opt-in list. And this generally happens through a form. So like the form that I showed you a couple slides ago that's on your website, most likely, and oftentimes, and it should be, if it's not, you need to address it, but that form on your website for newsletter subscribers should be automatically sent and synced to your email campaign software. And all they have to do is type in their email address into that form and press go, and they're automatically added to the list, and they don't have to take any further action. So that's a single opt-in. They're automatically added to the list from that form. There can also be a direct connection or an API between your booking engine and your property management system with the email campaign software. And let's say somebody was to make a booking, and I wanted to make that direct connection, and they made that booking, their email address would automatically be added to my email list. Okay, so advantages of an automated single opt-in. You could quickly grow your list faster because they don't have the end user doesn't have to take an additional action to confirm that they want to be on your list. Somebody could, and I could actually sign up my friends to your list if I wanted to, or spam bots could also fill out those forms too and get automatically added to your list as well too. So some disadvantages of an automated single opt-in is that somebody could type in their own email address incorrectly. get email addresses to be added to the list by spam bots. Errors are made, typos are made, and then sometimes somebody may over the phone, maybe they give you a bunk email address. So that's a single opt-in. Again, it builds your list fast, but there's errors, it's prone to errors, and kind of just your link quality is diminished. Also, this is important. The risk of your spam complaints is increased because you don't know if everyone on the list opted in. And if you can't necessarily prove that people confirmed to be on your list, that could get you in trouble, with the spam police. So single opt-in. The other one is the automated confirmed opt-in. Oftentimes, this is also described as a double opt-in, and it's when somebody signs up through a form, or there's a direct connection with your booking engine or reservation software, and the next step is they're going to get an email from your reservation or from your email campaign software confirming that they want to be part of your email campaign list. And they have to take that second action by clicking on a link in that email to verify that that email address is actually theirs. And then upon that second action, then they're added to your list. And that's called a double opt-in, confirmed opt-in. We're going to go through advantages and disadvantages of it, but this is really the preferred method that most email campaign, actually all email campaign softwares want you to do. Advantages. You're ensuring that that person really wants to be part of your list, and if they're part of your list and you're requiring a double opt-in, you should feel very comfortable about that you're going to have really low unsubscribed and spam complaints. If a spam complaint is recorded, now there's a paper trail about that person. They can't say, this person just keeps emailing me, I never subscribed to their list. There's a paper trail on that particular recipient, and the email campaign software police could really say, you double opted into their campaign, so you can only take this so far. If a subscriber takes that second action, they're generally more responsive and they're more open to your messaging that you want to send them, because they definitely want to hear from you, and they want to be part of your community, and they definitely want to receive the promotions in your newsletters that you send them. The major disadvantage to a double opt-in is it's friction. So getting people to take that second action it can be cumbersome. So the rate of your signups is slower. However, the advantage to that is it's a very well kept list. So you kind of have to weigh the best options for you and what you want to do. And if you feel that if you do a bunch of single opt-ins and your messaging is clear and your promotions that you send are valuable, and your recipients see your messaging is valuable, then you're not going to have a lot of spam complaints. You're not going to have a lot of unsubscribes. But do what's right for your property. Sometimes for some properties, I definitely recommend that they do with a single opt-in, and other properties I recommend a double opt-in. Okay, can spam laws. And I just want to talk about the core principles. And again, I hear some people say, "Oh, this is, it's not a big deal," or "It is a big deal." But basically, there's some core principles to this, and it's from the Federal Trade Commission. And you can get more information on their website. But the key ones are: don't use false or misleading header information. So, in your subject line, in the reply to, make sure that those are accurate, and make sure that the messaging in your subject line really matches what the content is about, and just be just be true and not deceptive. And that's basically the whole premise of the can spam laws. Some people will go as in their subject line will put an advertisement in the subject line. So you'll see some of that sometimes. I'm sure some of you guys have received email campaigns from larger companies that put this in just to be sure that it is that this is advertisement. You also have to tell recipients where you're located. And a lot of people don't do this, but in the footer of all your emails, you have to put your physical address. So, you know, a lot of people like to leave that off. And, you know, outside hospitality is probably more prevalent because, you know, some online retailers don't necessarily have a physical address. So, you know, but it is the law to actually include your physical address. And then number one is you have to provide a way for them to opt out. You can't hide it. You can't bury it. It can't be a 6-point font. It doesn't have to be at the top. It doesn't have to be a huge call to action. But you definitely need to provide a way that's clear that if they no longer want to receive your emails, that they can't unsubscribe, and it's important. So typically put at the bottom, you know, highlight the link, make it clear it says unsubscribe or no longer want to receive our emails. Click here, and then honor those opt-outs requests promptly. So you must give people a way to opt out that's available for at least 30 days after you send them an email. And you must act on that request to opt out within 10 business days for free. So they can't buy, they can't, you know, you can't say, well, if you give me $100, I'll take you off the list. Now, most of the times, handling opt-outs and unsubscribes is best to do with an automatic process. I still see people trying to do this manually and send out email campaigns manually. This gets you in hot water when you do that because oftentimes now you're opening yourself up to human error, and that email list never gets removed, or that email never gets removed from the list, or gets re-added back to that list, and you continue to send them email campaigns, and then you really start to get in a lot of trouble. So, you know, and that's why it's important to use a really good email campaign software, is to automate some of these processes for you. Okay, let's talk about permission. And again, I think a lot of people, you know, are confused about what they can and what they can't do, you know, what constitutes as permissions. So let's go through a couple examples. You know, a client tells me, you know, Kevin, everyone signed up through my website. You know, yes, that's perfect. You know, absolutely. They, especially if you do a double opt-in, that's creme de la creme right there. That's, you know, that's what you want. Now, with that, only send them what you promised to send them. So if they signed up for a newsletter, only send them a newsletter. If they did not sign up for promotional offers, do not send them promotional offers. So make sure that what they're getting is what they signed up for, and that kind of goes back to you know segmenting your list. Some people only want to receive newsletters. Some people only want to receive promos relating to couples. Some people may only want to receive promos relating to a particular room, and it kind of just depends on how you have those lists segmented and how well organized you are. Another comment. My mailing list is a few years old, but everyone signed up through my website. Well, maybe. You know, I mean, that may constitute as permission if those people signed up recently, you know, but if you haven't emailed them in the past, you know, 6 months, you know, you might want to start with sending those people another an email campaign saying, hey, you know, we're cleaning up our list. Would you like to be part of our new list going forward? And that's been quite effective, too, if you have an old list and haven't sent out a campaign before. Well, the other one, these are all guests of the property. Maybe, you know, if they stayed with you in the past 2 years, if they stayed with you 5 years ago, or before email even, you know, was really popular and you could send out email campaigns, did they give you permission? Don't really know. You know, so again, you know, it kind of depends on the age of the list, the age of that email, and you know, permission does not last forever. So just because they stayed with you 4 years ago doesn't mean that you really have the right to send them an email campaign. So use it or lose it. a couple more. So we ran a competition, let's say on Facebook, and all these people who, and these are all the people who entered. Well, maybe, again, maybe. So yes, they give you permission to use their email address to send them, who won about the competition, but it doesn't necessarily give you permission to continue to send them promotional offers. And really, if they sign up for something very specific about a competition, you're technically only allowed to send them information about that competition. So be careful here. These people all contacted me through my website. Absolutely not. So if you have, back to that contact us form example a few slides ago, if somebody was to fill out a general form on your website and there was not a checkbox that says, please also sign me up for newsletters, special offers, promotions, and you just take their email and you put them on your email campaign list, that's a no-no. So they did not give you permission to use that list for promotional purposes. And that's, a lot of people, I hear that all the time. Well, they contacted me, so I have the right to use it. No, that's not true. Okay, so let's get into executing your campaign and just planning out your campaign and planning out what you want to do. And I think this is an important element because I think where a lot of us get in trouble is we do things that are rushed. We don't necessarily plan it. We send it to an unorganized list, an unmaintained list, and it's not very targeted, so therefore the campaign isn't very effective. So let's just kind of go through and set up some parameters around sending and planning a campaign. So what is the main reason for sending the email? Is it to drive local guests for staycations? Is it to remind repeat guests how beautiful the property is in summer? Is it to get interested parties that have never stayed with you as an incentive? And those are all very different emails. So make sure that your messaging is clear and keep it short. I think that's always better. Sometimes I see email campaigns that are very long, and we'll talk about what to do with some of those long emails as well. But in general, the shorter, the sweeter. A lot of people are reading these email campaigns on their smartphones now, and they're not going to scroll forever. So just try to keep everything as concise as possible. And then also, how often are you going to be sending out emails? A newsletter, things about the property, be consistent with that. Most people expect those about once a month. Or if you have, a closure at the property or remodeling rooms or just information, just be consistent with those. And promotional emails are somewhat ad hoc, but still need to be planned appropriately. And then, determine who are you going to be sending the emails to. Is it going to be your repeat guests? And then furthermore, what type of repeat guests? Is it going to be a couple who stayed in a particular room, or is it going to be the business traveler that that stays with you every single quarter? And then, or are you going to be sending these to your prospects? People who have signed up on our website but have never been a guest before, and you're really trying to entice them to really come stay with you. And then when are you going to send out the campaign? And I think it's important to determine where your target market is. Is it East Coast or West Coast? And then send the campaign appropriately to those times, so where those people are located. And then what day are you going to send it on? Saturday morning versus a Tuesday afternoon? Lately, we've been seeing a lot of success with Saturdays and Thursday sends. And the reason for that is if you send it on a Saturday, a lot of people, they're at home, they may be just getting up in the morning, they're kind of going through their email leisurely, and so you get a spike on that first initial send. But then some of those people don't see them on Saturday, and they review them on Monday morning, and you'll get an initial spike. So we see essentially one big bump on the day that you send it out, and then another bump on Monday. The other one that we see is Thursday, and it's kind of the same premise, but the opposite. So on Thursday, we see that spike where people at work, but then the people at work that didn't necessarily check their personal email will check that, or their work email will go back through on that Saturday morning and check again, and we see another small bump on Saturday morning. So But play around with your send times. And your demographic is very different and can vary based on your send times could vary based upon where who your demographic is. Testing. I've seen it before. RedStream has been guilty of it. I think all companies are guilty of it. Test your emails before you send out the actual campaign. All these email campaign softwares have the ability to test and send out a test campaign to a select few or to a handful of email addresses to test before you actually send out that campaign. And choose your testers wisely. So make sure those testers are going to test it on a variety of devices and a variety of email clients. So, Gmail, Comcast, Yahoo's, they all display emails a little bit different. And then also, the desktop, the iPhone, the tablets also display a little bit different. And then make sure, you check your links. And, if you have phone numbers at on your campaign from the iPhone, from the Android, and those are clickable, make sure when you click those, they actually call the right telephone number. So, and then have people review the grammar, the spelling, the images. Are the images distorted? Are they not showing up properly? Are they, just so get as many eyes on your test email as possible, and that's really important. And then after you've cleaned up everything, test it again. And just don't assume that just because that all your testers have given you feedback, your campaign is good to go. Test it again until everything is perfect, and then rinse and repeat. So every time you you make corrections, send that test. It's so important because you don't want to be the person that has to send out, oh, I apologize, or we apologize, we sent out an email campaign that has wrong information on it. So, I've seen it, it happens, and that if you do send out an email campaign that has wrong information on it, it is absolutely appropriate to send out another email campaign apologizing for those mistakes and with the correct information. But, try to prevent that as much as possible. A/B testing. This is also, a pretty crucial part of the process of sending out a campaign. And A/B testing, also known as split testing, is a way to figure out if you have two different versions, which version is going to get you more actions, a better outcome. So you typically set up two variations, and it could be, a subject line, it could be an image, but typically what happens is you choose how big your sample size is going to be from your list. And before your campaign is sent out, let's say we choose 100 people of our sample size. 50 people are going to receive this campaign, 50 people are going to receive this campaign, and the winner is determined based on open rate, unique clicks, selected calls to action, and then from that, whoever the winner is, the rest of the list gets that winning campaign. So things to test are your subject lines, the from sender, content, images, and it could be an entirely new layout. And then what to measure on your A/B testing, open rates, unique clicks, and a specific calls to action are great things to test in A/B testing. It makes a huge difference when you do A/B tests. Sometimes you can see swings of 5%, that this winning campaign is going to get you a open rate of 5% greater than the other one, which is actually huge when it comes to email campaigns. Okay, so let's talk about measuring success and some of the basics. And there's basically four key metrics that you want to look at when you're measuring success for campaigns. And the first one is really, this could be a dashboard after you sent out a campaign. It's going to have unique opens, how many people bounced, how many people did not open it, what's your open rate, how many people clicked the link, how many people unsubscribed, how many people marked it as spam, and then how many shares did it have across Facebook, Twitter, and then just via email. But open rate is probably the top of the funnel when it comes to measuring success. And what is an open? So an open is defined by emails opened over emails sent minus your bounces. But an open is a the reader email client is capable of displaying HTML with images and has the option to display HTML and images turned off. So even though their email client is capable of receiving these type of HTML emails, if they have that option turned off and they only want to receive text-only email, that's not going to be counted as an open for you. Also, Outlook. I could have my Outlook and it's open every single day, all day, but if an email comes in and it's in that reading pane in Outlook, that's not going to be counted as an open unless I make an action in that reading pane, like make a click. So keep that in mind, that just because somebody sees your email, it may not be counted as an open. And then people reading HTML emails without images showing will not be recorded as opens. So a good example of this is Outlook, before the images show. If you don't say download images, that's not going to be counted as an open. Same thing with on your iPhone. If you read an email and you don't download your images, it's not going to be counted as an open. And typically those are small, but you still want to, it's just so your open rate isn't 100% accurate, but it is the top of the funnel when it comes to measuring success on your campaign and improving your open rate. So how can you do this? Your subject lines. Include details about the content. Be very specific, and then A/B test your subject lines. And then also, within your campaign, position your most important content at the top. In particular with iPhones, which is now becoming the #1 way to view emails, especially personal promotional type emails. You have to have your most important information near the top. And then I just wanted to give you a stat on what is the average open rate in travel for an email campaign, and it's 20%. Click-through rate. It's another important metric. And some people know click-through rate from their AdWords campaigns or from their pay-per-click campaigns. And that is defined as basically clicks over views. And then how do you improve your click-through rate? Feature clickable calls to action near the top of your email campaign. Make it easy for the reader to know exactly what you want them to do in order to take an action on the email. So make a booking. Put that button up top. Book this special rate. And then develop a personal connection. It's much more likely that subscribers will respond to somebody that they feel they have an intimate connection with. So you could definitely personalize emails. If you could capture their first and last name, you could personalize their email. But then also, again, if your list is segmented and you're narrowing it down to specific rooms, dear Sally and John, we know that you stayed in this suite before. We want to send you a special offer to stay in the suite again. It's very personal. And then keep your content short and stay focused. If the content gets too long and your emails are just very lengthy, link out to the full content on your website. So only provide a snippet of the content, and give them the ability to link out and read that article if they want to read out. Remember, readers are scanners today, and they just want to go through really fast and see what's pertinent to them and what relates to them. Click-through rate in travel, the average is 2.77%. So it may seem low, but that's the norm. Bounces. So there's different types of bounces, and there's a soft bounce and there's a hard bounce. And it's important to recognize or differentiate the two. So a soft bounce is actually an email address that's legitimate, but for some reason it can't get delivered, whether that server is just down at the moment, or there's too many messages going into that inbox and you just can't get delivered at that time. A hard bounce is an email address that's basically junk. It can't get delivered. It doesn't exist anymore. It's ill-formatted. So this is hard bounces definitely play a role in how email campaign softwares and email campaign police really view the quality of your list. So how do you improve your bounce rate? The best way to improve your bounce rate is to build and maintain a good list by using a double and confirmed opt-in. That is your single best way to improve your bounce rate. But you also want to monitor your delivery rate by domain. So if you, even though people double opted into your campaign, let's say your subject line has spammy content on it. So you're using the terms free, now, special offers sometimes will trigger these, and different ISPs are different on what their algorithms are set up to catch. But you may notice in your campaigns that nobody that has an AOL or a Comcast or a Yahoo is being delivered to. And that means that ISP or that provider has blocked, has deemed your email as spam, and they're not going to deliver to anybody in their network. So watch out for that. And if that does happen, then you really need to do some further testing on your subject lines and your content. And then again, just test your emails prior to your send. Some email campaign softwares have a testing tool of how spammy your email comes across. It's typically a small fee to run that test. But if you're getting yourself in trouble with AOL, Comcast, Yahoo, Gmail, it's a good idea to start running your campaigns through that testing before you send out your real campaign. Let's see. Okay, so unsubscribes and spam complaints. So reducing unsubscribes and spam complaints is just target your audience correctly. So if somebody signed up for promotions, send them promotional emails. If somebody signed up for a newsletter, only send them the newsletter content. Be very specific on what you send. Don't just don't have one general list that everybody's on and send them everything under the sun. You're definitely gonna increase your unsubscribes and your spam complaints if you do that. So use those targeted lists, and then avoid over communication. So the general rule of thumb is to send no more than one email every 10 to 15 days. If you're sending an email more than once every 10 days, I think that it's time to really revisit your email campaign strategy. And then again, send only what your subscribers have signed up for. So if don't send a repeat guest an email campaign that's enticing them to view the property for the first time. They already know what the property is like. They already know the value of your property. You want to send them targeted campaigns to get them to come back and share the experience again, not sell them the value of the experience because they already know what that is. So just be targeted on what you send and who you send it to, and then send on a regular basis. So make sure that you're, if you want to have a regular campaign and a successful campaign over time, send them regular emails, like once a month. If you haven't sent a campaign in more than 6 months, or it's been longer than that, or you've never sent a campaign and you've just been kind of sitting on this list not knowing what to do with it, it is absolutely appropriate to put together an email campaign saying, hey, look, we're cleaning up our list. We just want to be sure that you want to be part of our list going forward, and then have them double opt into that list or single opt into that list again, and set up a new list going forward. So it's absolutely okay to do. I see it all the time, and it's recommended by a lot of the email campaign softwares. Unsubscribe goals. Anything that's below 2% is below or is industry standard. So clearly you want to go for 0, but reality is some people are just going to unsubscribe because they went on a subscription frenzy and signed up to all these different emails, and now they're just kind of getting their inbox filled up with a lot of different email campaigns, and they just want to unwind some of that. So it may not be nothing to do with your campaign, but people are going to unsubscribe. Actually, on the right-hand side there, unsubscribe goal, that should be your spam complaint goal. that should be at 0%. You do not want spam complaints. Spam complaints are taken very seriously, and they can get you banned from utilizing the software. And I've seen this a few times now where people don't take spam complaints seriously, and they don't send to targeted lists, and they manually import subscribers. They get banned from one email campaign software, so they jump to another email campaign software. They get banned there, and then they keep jumping. All those records are in, those records exist that you're jumping email campaign softwares, and pretty soon you will be banned from sending out emails. So, spam complaints, take them seriously, and definitely allow people to unsubscribe properly. But the industry norm is less than 1 per 5,000 emails sent. And I know that sounds like, wow, that number is just ridiculous. Like, people are just gonna they're gonna report me as spam for whatever reason. And yes, you can't control some, but most of those are controllable through maintaining a good list. Okay, so now I want to talk about a case study, and this client is in Hawaii, but they had never really sent out campaigns before. And so we decided to do an email campaign. They were, in needing of generating some fast revenue. So we decided to put together a campaign for them. And it was going to be Surprise Your Valentine with a winter getaway in Hawaii. So that sounds pretty good to me. So the target for the campaign was repeat guests who had not made reservations with the property between February 1st and March 31st. So they can't have a reservation. The subject line was Surprise Your Valentine with a winter getaway. The send date, and time was Tuesday, January 16th, 2014 at 4 a.m. And we wanted to just get this early. We like to send out campaigns early so we could be, and there's different theories on this and test what works for your property. But 4 a.m. we wanted people on the mainland to really get this email, so that was Hawaii time. So the list size was 13,000. Some metrics from this campaign, their unique open rate was 35%. So that is phenomenal, especially for somebody that hasn't really sent out campaigns on a regular basis before. So they were really maintaining a nice list, and that's 15% above the average for travel. So that's awesome. Unique click-through rate was 14%. So 609 people clicked and took an action from that email campaign. The email campaign, I don't have a screenshot. I don't want to show you who the client was, but the campaign itself, the verbiage was very short with a call to action on it that said reserve now, reserve this special. The unsubscribe rate was 1.1. So again, that was below the norm, 134 people. The spam complaints were a little high. Why? Because they didn't send regular campaigns. They were kind of out of the game for some time, and so they definitely got some spam complaints. But I wanted to talk about the number one metric for this campaign, and its specific purpose was to drive revenue. And so that was the number one metric we wanted to look at, was revenue. The cost to send this campaign was $135, and the online revenue generated from this campaign, both direct and assisted conversions, was $23,000, so $24,000. So back to my initial slide, that email campaigns are extremely cost effective, and it took us about 2 hours to put this campaign together and send it out. So highly effective and very cost effective. So if you're not doing campaigns, start to put together a plan to do that. Contact myself, contact somebody here at RezStream. Let's talk about getting you on an email campaign software and start to help you build and maintain that list, and then let's start to plan and execute upon some email campaigns. So that leads me to our next slide. RezStream has partnered with a leading email campaign software to bring you guys the very best in delivery, reporting, and overall success in email marketing. Not all of our clients utilize email marketing. We wish that they all would, because it is a huge revenue driver, and it's fast revenue, and it's cost effective, and it's relatively easy to do. So get started and get involved in doing it. And I want to thank you all for attending the webinar today. I know it was a mouthful. I still came under 2 hours, just under 2 hours. But a thank you. I know I went fast. But if any of you guys have any questions, again, please contact me at kevin.will@rezstream.com. And I thank you very much for attending.